Well, it's Wednesday, and you all know what that means. As you know, Stardom are on the road to the All-Star Dream Queendom later on this month of the 26th of April. However, on this particular event, of course, this is their much recent one they just put out in Korakuen Hall, features, of course, two semi-final matches for the Rookie of Stardom tournament. So the real question is how this is going to turn out. Well, we'll see. And of course, we have preliminary matches involving that particular event at the All-Star Dream Queendom. Then, of course, we have WWE Evolve, featuring, of course, Aaron Rourke defending the championship against Chaz Starboy Hall. Now, this will be, of course, Hall's first attempt, but the real question is, can he pull it off, or will Aaron Rourke become, of course, still our current Evolve champion? However, of course, we have the debut of four WWID prospects in the women's division, and they both will be competing for a slot, of course, in the Gauntlet match to crown our first ever Evolve Women's Champion after Kendall Gray, of course, relinquished it after she defeated her opponent and went to NXT. And plenty of things also are taking place. And then finally, of course, AEW Dynamite headed to Element, and of course, big news coming from Jericho. And we had a little bit of surprise coming from Will Ospreay as his war against, of course, the Death Riders rages on. Then we'll hear from Kenny Omega after what MJF told him about the injury he obtained not too long ago, of course. And that is something that's been going around. So we'll see how things will roll. And then, of course, as always, we'll wrap up our episode, as usual, with some news updates to give you guys updates on what's been happening in the world of wrestling, such as what events the promotions are thrown out, who's booked, what matches are set, including developments that are happening in the world of wrestling as we speak. So, let's get ready for another episode of the Deleted Wrestle Zone.
Are you ready? Get up, get up! 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 Get up, get up!
Hey everyone, welcome to the Deleted Wrestle Zone, all things that is pro wrestling with AEW, NXT, New Japan Pro Wrestling, TNA, the National Wrestling Alliance, various promotions, wrestlers, matches, and championships. I am your host, J-Rod here. So, if you are new to the channel, welcome. This is a channel we do a lot of pro wrestling reviews from various promotions, not only here in the United States, but also in Japan, Mexico, Canada, Europe, the UK. In world pro wrestling is not as big, but it continues to grow. We also, of course, do discussion videos, talk about various topics such as the wrestlers themselves, the promotions, factions, storylines, whatever we want to talk about. We also, of course, do more news updates. If certain information is unable to be on this episode, we can either put it on the next one or on a separate video by itself. We also, of course, do real-time news updates to keep you guys on alert if something has happened in the world of wrestling that needs to be addressed ASAP. We also, of course, got the Unagi Sayaka Watch and various other cool wrestling content as well. So if you like what you see, please subscribe to us and click on that subscribe button. You'll be getting a lot of daily reviews and other cool wrestling content as well. But if you like this episode, please give us a like on the like button or a nice comment in the description down below. Now, enough with the jibber jabbers. Let's get started. So, let's begin with Stardom. Okay, Stardom. Now, as you know, this one is the Stardom Nighter in Korakuen, April 2026. Now, as you know, often we see Stardom return to Korakuen Hall almost every month or so. But this one had very fun matches as well, but also critical ones for the upcoming All-Star Dream Queendom later on this month. Now, our first match, we have Ane Kanaya, Rian, Zena, and Tabitha. They take on Honoka, Saran, and the members of Stars, Momokogo, and B. Priestley. Now, obviously, there is no storytelling in this particular match, which is okay, but it was a pretty good match. Not to mention, we do recognize certain wrestlers from waves, such as, of course, Honoka and Saran. Many of you may remember Saran. She was originally with Ice Ribbon until she left. And of course, we have others who are not currently in any other promotion. Tabitha from CMLL is there too. But it was a pretty impressive match. But in the end, it was Honoka who actually picked up the win by applying a bridge onto Rian, a move that we often see Rian do. But now it's like she's on the other end of that, and that was an impressive move to follow. But nonetheless, it was a good one. Now, our next match, we have Waka teaming up with Hanako and Maika, her former stablemates of EXV, and once again they are at war against Mivida Loca, consistent of Izuki Aoki, Rina Yamashita, and Suzuki. Now, as you all know, this history between the two factions started with the two leaders at the time. Well, EXV is no longer around, but you can know what I'm talking about, between Maika and Suzuki, and that kind of sets it up right there. Many people would have assumed they would end up forming their own faction, and that kind of sets it up. But no, they kept going back and forth all the time, aggression. But in the end, it was Aoki who picked up the win when she applied. I'm not sure if it was an air raid crash onto Waka, and just like that, 1, 2, 3, it was over. However, we did see a post-match promo between Zuzu talking to Maika, but later we did see Aoki and Zuzu get into a brawl with both Hanako and, of course, Maika, and they just immediately just started beating crap each other. And then, of course, Aoki, she's like, "Peace out, I'm out." So she left, and then she grabbed Waka, like tried to drag her out. I thought that was pretty funny. Our next match, well, this one is a bit of a God's Eye showdown in some ways. It's a 5-on-2 match. We do have, of course, um, Kyoka Kotatsu, Rana Yagami, Tomoka Inaba, Lady C, and Hina taking on Enekon, consistent of Shuri and Saki Kashima. But however, of course, it was announced that Enekon has, of course, a second, and that second is none other than Passion! Yep, that's right, Nana Takahashi. Many of you remember she retired last year, and now she's here for this one, specifically for Saki Kashima. But I did love this match, not only because there was some funny moments, like everybody got a taste of Nana Takahashi, like she gave them a slap of a lifetime. And Inaba looks like she was looking forward to be slapped. I don't know, it's kind of weird, but it was a fun match. But unfortunately, I would have assumed that Saki Kashima would have picked up the win, but no, it was Hina who picked up the win with the ghetto clutch, and just like that, 1, 2, 3, it was over. So just like that, completely dead out. Now, our next two matches, of course, is the Rookie of Stardom tournament, and now we are in the semifinals. We have Yuri Him versus Emma Maishima. Now, many of us could agree these ladies debuted at certain different times, and of course, Yuri Him and Emma Maishima, they debuted differently at the time. Yuri Him debuted a bit before, of course, Emma Maishima. And many would think that maybe the experience and the aspects would have been the key factor in this match. But no, somehow Emma Maishima was able to apply a crucifix, and just like that, 1, 2, 3, she wins. And it was a bit of surprise for us. Now, for the next match of the semifinals of the Rookie of Stardom, we have Akira Kuragani and Kikyo Furuzawa. Now, obviously, we know the difference between both. We know that Kuragani and Yurihim, they both debuted around the same time, but they chose to respect the factions. Of course, Yurihim ended up going to Stars, while Kuragani went to Mi Vida Loca. And out of nowhere, we would have assumed, just like we saw in the first one, that Kuragani would have picked up the win, since she does have quick experience. Not to mention, Akira Kuragani has the most toughest mentor that she's ever had, which is Zuzu. But no, it didn't do any well, because Furuzawa was able to apply like an ankle lock type of modification onto Kuragani, and just like that, Kuragani just tapped out, which is another surprise and one that I did not anticipate. So basically, we have two ladies who are going to face off, and these two ladies, not to mention, they actually met before. So we will see how things will go from there. Now, I wouldn't be surprised that if one of them wins, they would challenge for the Future of Stardom Championship. Obviously, maybe that would be the key point, but we'll see. Now, our next match, we have Maki Ito teaming up with Fuwa-chan and Azuki taking on the Cosmic Angels, consisting of Yuna Mizumori, Saori Anu, and Natsupoi. Now, obviously, there's some things here. As you know, Fuwa-chan issued a challenge against Saori Anu. So basically, Fuwa-chan had picked a fight, and she picked the wrong fight. And not to mention, the history between Maki Ito and Natsupoi continue is told every single time. And you would have assumed that happened. But however, of course, Fuwa-chan was full of herself. She was overconfident, and it resulted of her losing to Saori Anu with the Tempest Tendrum. And just like that, 1, 2, 3, it was over. But we did see a bit of a promo, a post-match promo for what happened. And this is what, of course, I was later translated, so you guys can get a clear view. Let me pull it up real quick for all of you. So, Saori Anu tells Fuwa-chan, "Hey Fuwa-chan, how's your form? I thought it'd get fun, but is this all there is to it?" And she just walked away. However, of course, we did see Maki Ito tell Natsupoi, and this is what she said: "Hey, Evil One, you said you weren't interested in the cute belt, but in Maki Ito, you're so wrong. Listen up. Maki Ito includes this cute belt, and go ahead and smash it into pieces as many times as you want. I'll come back with and bring it back to life over again. Natsupoi, even so, the result will be the same." So she destroyed the cute championship, and she had a much bigger one, but Natsupoi took that one. But however, of course, we did see Azuki had a bit of a tough love with Fuwa-chan, and this is what she said: "Fuwa, aren't you getting a bit too full of yourself? If you call yourself one of my disciples, don't let me down. Fuwa-chan, your bright personality, that's great. It makes everyone smile, but messing around in the ring, that's not cool, is it? Don't disrespect pro wrestling." And out of nowhere, of course, Starlight Kid shows up and tells her this: "Master Azuki, are you properly educating her? Fuwa-chan, in the ring, results are everything. So how about I give you a wake-up call before the Yokohama?" Fuwa-chan responds, "Azuki-san, I'm sorry. Kid-san, looking forward to it." And Starlight Kid goes out, "I've been thinking I wanted some stimulation myself, so come at me with everything you've got." So basically, that's what's going to happen. So some of you may ask, what was the whole point of this? Well, Fuwa-chan really is out of her, really is trying to do what she can to make a name for herself, but the way she's done it was the wrong approach. But at the same time, people can say she picked the wrong fight. So we'll see how that rolls out from there. Now, our next match, we have Neo Genesis, Starlight Kid, Miyu Amasaki, and Azumi. Now, this one is a preliminary match because their opponents are consisting of Fukigen Death, Raka, and Natsuko Tora. Obviously, you know that Masaki and Azumi are challenging for the Goddesses of Stardom Championships, the tag belts. And we know that in recent preliminary matches, of course, we saw Hayda have often picked up the win. But this time, things didn't go according to plan. Regardless of their usual tactics, softening their opponents, distracting ref, using weapons, well, this time it was Raka who ended up on the wrong side of the Azumi Sushi, and just like that, 1, 2, 3, it was done. However, Azumi said that she has never held the tag team belts before, and this could be one of the biggest moments of her career. And I'm sure that Hate are gonna say, "Well, listen up, bastard. You're not gonna win it because it's not gonna happen." I mean, you may never know. I mean, she could have won it on several times with Momo Watanabe when they were still in Queen's Quest, and who knows? But that's how things turned around. In our main event, also part of the preliminary match, we have, of course, Sakurada, members of the Cosmic Angels, Sayaka Kurara and Aya Sakura. They team up with stars Wingori, consisting of Sayaida and Hanan. However, they're facing Hate. Now, keep in mind, we have Azusa Inaba, Rina, Konami, and Sayaka Mitani. Now, remember, Hanan is the winner of this year's Cinderella's tournament, and she challenged for the white belt. She'll be facing Konami. And as for Sayaka Kurara, she'll be challenging for the red belt, but putting the existence of the Cosmic Angels on the line. So that's something we definitely going to be paying attention to as well. But however, we know how things were going to turn out. I mean, we know how Hate does their MO. They take the fight outside, they use whatever weaponry. And I have to say, Kurara put up the best fight that she has. She's not going to let someone like Kamitani try to ruin her. But however, that wasn't enough until, of course, the Kamigoye played out. And then we did see, of course, Kamitani tells Kurara that and soon I'll flip the switch on Cosmic Angels. In a way, she's looking forward to see the Cosmic Angels disband because that way she ends the legacy of Tam Nakano. But some people, as you know, I mentioned before, there are those who still think that maybe Tam Nakano will show up and help Kurara, since she is her protege. But we'll see what happens. I'm not going to say it's 100% true, but you may never know. But right now, we're done with Stardom. Let's move on with WWE Evolve. Okay, WWE Evolve. Now, we opened up with Chaz Starboy Hall, as you know, talking about, of course, his opportunity for the Evolve Championship. So he talked about his history challenging for bigger opportunities long before Evolve. But however, things got interrupted with Hendricks and Riggins attacking, of course, Crucifino and Wild prior before their match. So the question was, what's going to happen now? They were scheduled to have a tag match, but it did not happen. So we'll see how that rolls up. Now, we opened up with, of course, brand new prospects, mostly coming from Europe. Tristan Angels versus Romeo Moreno. Now, some of you may recognize these guys if you guys watch the independents in the European scene. That kind of plays it out too well. But however, I was impressed with the ending of Angel's move. It looked more like a stop, but except he used his knee. Now, I don't know exactly what to call it, but let's just name it the knee stomp or whatever. But yes, it was a very effective move, kind of like the foot stomp, but nonetheless. Now, there's these new guys that made their presence known, named Santi Rivera, who I've seen before, and Jacare Bell. They were just, flexing muscle, questioning how much they did with their bench press, whatever, until they were, of course, introduced to It's Skull, who he sees them, hey, you guys are like me, best buds, we all have the best physiques and all that stuff. So that kind of hits it out right there. Kind of reminds me of what that tag team partner he had not too long ago, but yes. Now, we did introduce brand new ID prospects for the women's division. We have, of course, Gianna Capri, who I think that's Victoria Valentina Rossi. Sloane Jacobs, many of you know her as Victoria's Mimi. Veronica Haven, Anya Rune, who's America Dim, something like that. But however, of course, each of these ladies will be fighting for an opportunity in the open spot for the Gauntlet match for the crowning of a new Women's Evolve champion. But however, PJ Vasa, as you know, made it perfectly clear that they all have an issue because she doesn't care which one of them walks out, that they're just going to be stomped by her. And that's exactly what she intends to do. Now, our Evolve foreman, of course, Timothy Thatcher, well, he has a very interesting office setup, kind of. He basically was making some huge announcements. Now, originally, he added one more person into the mix of the women's gauntlet match for the Evolve Women's Championship. He added Tyra May Steele. So basically, there's that, and there'll be two more spots. One that will happen now. But he also said that it's still in consideration about what happened to Weil and Cufacino, knowing that it may not be medical clear, so the match will be postponed. Now let's jump into that match for the open spot for the open slot, one of the open slots for the Gauntlet match that will take place soon. Of course, Gianna Capri, Sloane Jacobs, Veronica Haven, Anya Rune. And I have to say, it was a pretty good match. You can tell that these ladies are eager to prove themselves, to prove their worth, and that's exactly what was going on. But it was, of course, Jacob Sloane's with, I think it was looked more like a Muto lock onto Haven, and just like that, it was over. However, of course, Callie Armstrong showed up, basically not thrilled with the idea of having some prospects involved. But of course, Laney Luck got involved and took matters in her own hands. So you can tell this is going to be very, very, very interesting. So we'll see how that plays out too. Now, in the Performance Center, we saw Mike Cunningham running into, of course, Lince Dorada, all this usual thing, of course, until they run into It's Skull and his new friends, of course, Rivera and Ball. But later they announced there's going to be a match between Rivera and Ball against Lince Dorada and Mike Cunningham. So you can tell how that's going to play out too. Now, Aaron Roker, as you know, is prepared for his upcoming title match. He knows he has a target on his back. And amongst them, of course, is Riggins and Hendricks. So despite the fact, he knows that these guys would try to wipe him out if the opportunity arises. But he had no time for that. So he jumped into his title match against Chaz Starboy Hall. And I thought the match was pretty good. I mean, Hall really put up a hell of an A game on this match. But unfortunately, he ended up on the wrong side of the over the track. But however, Brooks Jensen was outside the ring. As you know, Jensen has one thing in mind, it's the title. But Cappuccino Jones showed up and took matters in his own hands. But it was, of course, Aaron Rourke with the over the top onto Hall. And just like that, 1, 2, 3, it was over. And of course, he retained the belt. But in the back, we did see Riggins and Hendricks watching on. And here comes Harlem Lewis saying that Aaron Rourke is ducking him. And of course, Riggins and Hendricks kind of made a joke about the whole thing. Well, if I was them, I would not keep my back. I wouldn't turn my back on Lewis. But we'll see what happens next week. So stay tuned for more. Now, as of right now, let's move on to our last and final review, AEW Dynamite. Okay, AEW Dynamite. We opened up, of course, at the underground parking lot, of course. Will Ospreay once again with his usual attack towards Jon Moxley. However, it became the numbers game when the Death Riders show up. But however, the tables would turn with the arrival of Ospreay's fiancée Alex Windsor and of course the United Empire, consisting of Henare, Francisco Akira, and the IWGP Heavyweight Champion Cal Newman. So this became an all-out brawl between the two factions. But man, Henare was showing that I can kick your butt and all that. He even put Wheeler Yuta through the window, the hood of the car, taking him out completely. So all hell was broke loose. However, Will Ospreay is determined to hurt Jon Moxley by using the Tiger Driver, a move that he knows all too well is very effective. But of course, Claudio had to save his life. But we'll see what happens from there. Now, Don Callis, as you know, being a big crybaby with his big diapers, is crying because Fletcher is so hurt. Fletcher. Yeah, he's crying because, of course, now that the TNT Championship is vacant. So he thinks this is unfair, and now he wants to take his frustrations out. And the way he's going to do that, apparently, of course, he said that he had things on his mind. One is he had a plan to have Fletcher and Okada, as known as Proto Okada, to take on the Young Bucks, but it's not going to happen. And of course, plans for the Casino Gauntlet match and all that stuff. So we'll see what he has in call. Now, Darby Allin teams up with Bandito and Jungle Jack Perry. They face off members of the Don Callis family, Konosuke Takeshita, Mark Davis, and Andrade. Now remember, these two will face off because these two men have one thing in mind, is the AEW World Title. And of course, Don Callis is trying to keep Darby Allin away from that title and try to reserve it for Andrade, but we'll see how that goes. And of course, there was going to be some interesting moments coming in the way. However, of course, we did see the DM on Jack Perry by Andrade, and just like that, 1, 2, 3, it was over. However, of course, Darby Allin decided to take matters in his own hands, and there was the number games, and then of course we did see the Young Bucks, then Okada get involved, and then we did see the Okada and Takeshita get into each other's faces, which I thought was very impressive. But the Rascals made their presence known. As you know, Don Callis has a problem with them because he goes out saying it's the Rascals' fault for Kyle Fletcher being hurt. So you can tell how that's going to be. Now, Lexis Neer asked for an interview with Doc Sampson. Sampson, of course, gave his opinion about MJF's claims that Kenny Omega, as you know, he was having some problems with his abdomen. I cannot know the exact word, but he said that he's only saying that to get under the skin. However, he did clarify that Kenny Omega is fine. He is in the best shape of his life, and that kind of sets it up. But he doesn't believe MJF with the grain of salt of his claims. So basically, he made that perfectly clear to the AEW fan base. Now, our next match, as you know, Willow Nightingale said that she's willing to put the TBS title on the line, and the person who responded is the Queen herself, Queen Aminata. And I thought the match was impressive. I mean, Willow was like, okay, like she realized this is not the Queen Aminata you may remember, but she is different and very, very ready for war. But of course, Hikaru Shida was watching from a distance. I'm not sure if she's aiming for the TBS title, but nonetheless. But it was Willow who walked away with the win when she applied Dr. Bomb, and just like that, 1, 2, 3, over. Now, Jericho, who we haven't seen for almost a year, but he made his return to, of course, to AEW this past Saturday in Collision. Well, last week in Collision. He apparently has a new contract, and he's going to set up a match for himself at Dynasty. However, Ricochet's like saying, come on, man. Just do yourself a favor. Don't sign it. Go home. Retired. Let the young people like me handle it. And of course, Jericho, well, let's just say he doesn't like when someone interrupts him. He just says, you're on the list. Yep. So basically, he's going to face him at Dynasty. So Ricochet should have just not interfere, but he opened his big fat mouth. Now, of course, Lex Luger wanted to get more information with Don Callis about everything, so of course the whole thing with Darby Allin and Andrade is on the top of the mind. However, his issues towards, of course, the Bucks, let's just say he found a team that will deal with it, and that is Takeshita and Okada. But Takeshita's like saying, oh hell no, I'm not teaming up with him. But he's like, you have to. This is for Fletcher. Now, of course, they can willing to put that aside, but it's all about ego, because Okada, as you all know, he thinks he's above Takeshita. He thinks, Takeshita, you're not even in my level. But we have seen Takeshita, he can be in his same level, but he doesn't think he does. But we'll see. Now, our next match is part of the spot for the Casino Gauntlet match that will happen on Dynasty for the TNT Championship. We have Tommaso Ciampa, a former champion, taking on Mascara Dorada. And you can tell that this match, Tommaso Ciampa brought the A game onto him. And just like that, of course, he picked up the win when he took him out with the knee strike. Now, of course, the Dogs, as you know, they're on a warpath to destroy anybody that stands in their way. And let's just say they're They have their sights set on the AEW Real Trios champions, Mystico and Jet Speed. But however, they let the carnage when they annihilated Strong and of course Orange Cassidy. So you can tell how this was going to be. Now, Lexinier, as you know, had tried to talk to Tekla, but Tekla's like, I don't need to hear about this thing with Jamie Hayter. If you say that, I'm going to take you to a strip club and make you dance in front of everyone. Because, of course, Tekla is not here to listen to Jamie Hayter because she just wants Jamie Hayter to get a beating of her life. But we'll see how that turns out as well. Now, we did see, of course, Adam Copeland and Christian Cage doing their usual promo, but however, Christian Cage took it a little bit too far by calling that their FTR that they'll visit their mothers. And of course, they didn't like that, but out of nowhere, they were brutally attacked from behind by RGB Vice, Rocky Romero, and Trent Beretta. As you guys remember, during Collision, of course, in AEW Dynamite, RPG Vice were in FTR's locker room, and of course, Christian Cage and Copeland took them out. So you can tell this is payback. So we'll see how that turns out too. Well, of course, Darby Allin put out a video promo talking about Andrade and all that, so we'll see how that turns out too. Now, we did see, of course, our main event featuring the United Empire, Francesco Kira, Henare, Cal Newman, and Will Ospreay taking on, of course, the Death Riders, consistent of Daniel Garcia, Claudio, Pac, and John Moxley. So you can tell Wheeler Yuta was taken out completely. And I thought the match was intense and all that. But who knows how things would have turned out. But in the end, we did see the hidden blade by Will Ospreay onto Moxley. And just like that, 1, 2, 3, it was over. However, Will Ospreay was attempting to apply the Tiger Driver onto, of course, Moxley, but Claudio once again saves his life, make sure he does not end it up. So, of course, that's what Ospreay's going to do to him when he sees him. Now, Kenny Omega, as you know, talked about his little abdomen issue that he had in the past. Says, yes, I had a little boo-boo, all that. And he says that, people talk about, okay, the Best Bow Machine, the Cleaner, all these personas that he has that he had, and he only had those because that's what people called him, and he took that completely. Now, MJF, as you know, once again get into his face and all that, but however, of course he was going to try to knock him out, but however, Kenny Omega saw that a mile away. Basically, he saw that, he took him out with the V-trigger, and he told him, Max, come on, you don't think I studied you? I knew exactly what you were planning. And he removed the Dynamite Diamond Ring, which has always been his source of weapon to knock out his opponents, ensuring he wins the match. But we'll see what happens until then. I'm sure MJF's going to cry like a little big baby over it. But that's how it goes. But for now, we'll leave things as it is with this. We're done with our reviews. Let's move on with our last and final thing, news updates. Okay, so welcome to our news update. So let's begin as always with, of course, upcoming events. Starting with GCW, of course, we have a pile of it right now coming from them. It was announced for the FE Big Gay Brunch that will happen in Las Vegas on the 18th of April. 2 more names have been added. Nixie SX and J Lux. I don't know who J Lux is, just to be up, but I know Nixie. I've seen her name mentioned a bunch of times. And then we have their Maryland show on the 1st of April, Express Lane. It was announced Kerry Morton will take on Vipress. Now, 2 more shows have been announced in the month of June. They're back-to-back. The first one, of course, is going to take place on the 19th of June in Cincinnati, Ohio, called Race Against Time. And then the following day, they'll make their way to, of course, Berwyn, Illinois, for the Down Bow happening. Now we haven't know anything about who's gonna be participating, but I'll let you guys know as the time moves on. Now, by the time this video is out, this already happened. Many of you, if you guys are big fans of Waka Tsukiyama and Lady C, well, as you remember, those two actually had a tag team name together before they went to their respective faction. Waka went to Cosmic Angels, Lady C went to Queen's Quest, but they were known as C Moon. It was announced that they will be participating at some show in Shinjuku Face, taking on the ladies of Evolution, more specifically the only two remaining members of the roster, Soy and Chica. So that's going to be fun. Now, as you know, Marvelous will be here for the Las Vegas show during WrestleMania week, Shooting Star Fest, on the 16th of April. Now, matches have been announced for this one. We have Sweet Carolina versus Gabby Forza versus Charlie King versus Mighty Myra. Then we have, of course, Sora Ayame taking on Maya World. Our former tag team champions, Magenta, Riko Kawahara, and Maria will be participating. And then finally, we have Ichika Miyabi and Amira will be facing off each other. That's going to be a very interesting matchup. Now, as you know, we have the Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling Multiverse on the 17th of April, also part of the Las Vegas shows. Stingray, Paul Walter Hausen, will be there. But however, another match has been announced. Stephen Borden, the son of the legend Sting, will be in action to take on Karen Gray, who many of you may or may not have seen him in Ring of Honor. So it's a very interesting thing. Spark Joshi Puroresu of America has announced for their Lady Luck 2 event on the 19th of April. The Spark Yoshi Atlantic Championship will be on the line. The current champion, Saki, will defend it against, of course, Jasmine Allure. Now, as you know, we have the collaboration with Italian promotion SAJ and Tokyo Pro Wrestling on the 26th of April. They announced a mixed tag match. We have Session Moth Martina teaming up with Flamingo, taking on Hyper Masaur and LG. And then finally, of course, we have the Big Time Wrestling event, Hard Times, on the 1st of May at Newark, New Jersey. Viva Van will take on Simone. Now, to some developments. If you guys are big fans of Mighty Gold, if you haven't seen for a while, Yuki Minami, who has been out for a while, she just recently went to social media and she just posted this out saying, new school year in April. Out with an injury, and lately I've been under the weather too. I'm battered and bruised, living days that aren't like me at all. But life's sometimes right. But I am absolutely come back strong and full of energy. You know, let's keep pushing together. So it seems like since she's been out and injury, she's returning. I just can't wait to see what she's gonna do. Now, many of you remember that Mercedes Moné has been losing some belts. This is a report that was putting out. They came out recently. Mercedes Moné had to vacate the APAC Women Wrestling Women's Championship after the promotion said that they were unable to fly her to Malaysia and refused to allow her to defend the title in another promotion. She officially has 0 belts. This ends when dropping the belts to Red Velvet, Alex Windsor, Willow Nightingale, Persephone, Swan, Mila Schmidt, Alexis Falcon, Diana Strong, and Jody Thread. So basically, the Ultimo Monet is done. So I think many people ask, what's next? Well, we'll see. We had a very interesting announcement coming from Pro Wrestling Evolution regarding Shuji Ishikawa, who is one of the heads of the promotion itself. And this is what they said. We sincerely thank you for your continuing support for Pro Wrestling Evolution. We are pleased to announce that Shuji Ishikawa, who is previously supported Evolution as general manager, has now officially become a member of the Pro Wrestling Evolution. With his overwhelming power and presence, Mr. Ishikawa has built an impressive track record across numerous organizations and captivated many fans. We are confident that as a member of the Pro Wrestling Evolution, we will continue to shine on this new stage. Taking this affiliation as an opportunity, we will strive to realize even more captivate events, further the development of our organization. We kindly ask for your continued cheers and support for Shuji Ishikawa as we Pro Wrestling Evolution. This happened, of course, on the 9th of April, Pro Wrestling Evolution. So basically, now he's a full-time member of the roster or whatever, part of the staff, but I'm glad for him. I know he's been involved with Evolution since it first began with Suwama looking for some Yoshi wrestlers. So we'll see how things will go. But as of right now, we are officially done. Let's call it a day. Alright, I hope everybody enjoys this episode. Coming up, we do have another DWZ news update. Of course, this one involves another roster member leaving the promotion, and there's been speculations and belief where this individual will be heading. And then, of course, a very interesting development. TNA had to pull many of their talents from the promotion Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling. Obviously, we know who runs Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling, Scott D'Amore, who has very close ties with TNA back in the day until he was fired. But we will explain more about that. Now, I could have put this on this episode, but however, this came too late as soon as I was making this planned out, but I decided to keep this one separate. Now, as for our next episode, it's going to feature, of course, TNA and Ring of Honor. I haven't decided yet if there's going to be any new other reviews on that, but we'll see. I'm not going to hold my breath on that yet until I cross the bridge, but we'll see. So stay tuned for more. Until then, I will see you guys in the next DWZ time, same DWZ channel. I must bid all of you adieu. So, goodbye, and have a nice day. Bang.